We are the carried accumulation of every stage from the Big Bang to this moment.
That is, wow, a heavy way to start a
I know,
Tuesday.
right? But it's the opening hook from the source material we're breaking down today. And honestly, I just couldn't get it out of my head.
What's the source?
It's a piece by a Dr. Nimrod Israeli called The Law of Nested Emergence. And look, usually when we talk about laws here, it's, legislation or maybe supply and demand.
Sure.
But this is different. This is about the architecture of reality itself.
It is. And honestly, reading this felt less like reading a physics paper and, I don't know, more like looking at a blueprint for why the universe doesn't just fall apart.
Right.
Because that's the core mystery he's getting at. Stability. Why does anything work at all?
Which is something we absolutely take for granted.
Completely. I mean, we wake up, the floor holds our weight, our coffee stays liquid. Our bodies don't just disintegrate into a cloud of atoms.
Yep.
But if you look at the different layers of reality physics, chemistry, biology, society, they are all running on completely different rule books.
Yeah, in school, those are different classrooms. You don't use gravity equations in history class.
No.
If you did, you'd probably fail.
Exactly. But in the real world, they occupy the exact same space. The source uses this analogy of a mechanical clock that I found really, really helpful.
The clock, yeah.
So you have all these wheels spinning inside. And if they don't mesh perfectly, if the gears of physics grind against the gears of chemistry, the clock doesn't just run slow.
It stops being a clock.
It stops being a clock, it explodes, or, well, it just ceases to function as a system.
So the mission of this deep dive is to figure out how those gears mesh. I mean, how do we get from the Big Bang to us without the whole thing collapsing into chaos? Because Dr. Israeli argues there's a specific mechanism for this, right?
He does. And the answer isn't just luck. It's this concept of nested emergence. And I think the best way to get into it is to leave the abstract physics for a second and look at something painful.
Yeah. Literally painful.
Literally.
You mean the glass door story?
I do. It's the anchor for the whole theory.
Yeah. This part of the article was so visceral. So Dr. Israeli takes us back to when he was 9. He's on a kibbutz. It's Independence Day, huge celebration.
Right.
He's a kid. He's hyped up on adrenaline and probably sugar. He takes off running and smack.
Right through a glass door.
Shatters it. And his momentum carries him through. And a shard of glass just slices deep into his right armpit. It's a mess. Stitches, blood, the whole thing. And it leaves a permanent scar. Now, here's where he flipped my perspective. Because if I have a scar and I have a few, I look at it as a memory. It's a souvenir from an event.
That's the psychological view. I remember the pain. It's mental data.
But Israeli says, no, look closer. He writes that the scar isn't a symbol. It is a physical alteration of form.
And this is the key insight. The body didn't get over the accident. It didn't delete the event and go back to a factory setting.
Yep.
It physically reorganized its tissue to accommodate that history. The history became structure. The tissue is different now because of what happened. It's tougher in some spots, tighter in others.
History becomes structure. That's the first big takeaway from me. We aren't beings who have a past. We are beings made of our past.
And this scales up. It's not just human skin. He uses the example of tree rings, which I think is even clearer for visualizing this.
Okay.
We look at a tree stump and we see a calendar, right? Count the rings, you know the age.
Sure. Narrow ring means a drought year. Wide ring means a rainy year. It's a record.
But to the tree, that ring isn't a calendar entry. It's load-bearing. The tree is standing tall today because of the wood laid down during that drought.
God.
That dense, narrow ring from the hard year is actually harder wood. If you could magically reach in and remove the memory of the drought, take out that narrow ring because it was a bad time, the tree would snap in the next storm.
So the history provides the physical strength for the future.
It is the strength. That's a wild way to think about resilience, right?
Yeah.
The shape of a tree isn't a design choice. It's a map of everything it survived.
Precisely. Same with a fish. Why is a fish shaped like a torpedo? It's not an aesthetic decision. That shape is the accumulated solution to millions of years of water pressure, currents, predators.
Right.
A fish is basically a physical answer to the question, how do I move through water without dying?
So if history becomes structure, then we need to talk about how these structures stack up, because that leads us to the actual law part of the title.
We've got the metaphor, now give us the mechanics.
Right. The law of nested emergence.
Sounds like a mouthful.
It is, but let's break it down. Emergence just means complex things arising from simple things, like life emerging from chemicals. Nested means they sit inside each other.
Okay.
And the definition he gives is Every enduring increase in complexity is achieved by preserving and reorganizing earlier layers, not replacing them.
Not replacing them. That's the part I want to push back on a little. Because in tech, in business, even in self-help, we are obsessed with replacement.
Oh, total.
Out with the old, in with the new. Version 2.0 deletes version 1. If I buy a new phone, I don't want the old operating system inside it. I want it gone.
That's how we build, but that is not how the universe builds. The source argues that reality works more like a Russian doll, or actually a building foundation.
Okay.
Think about the history of the universe. When the universe invented chemistry, it didn't fire physics.
Right. Atoms still have gravity. Electrons still have charge.
Exactly. Chemistry stabilized physics. It used the laws of physics to create stable bonds. It didn't break the laws of physics. It reorganized them.
Into something new.
Into something new. Then biology comes along. It doesn't transcend chemistry. You and I are walking, talking chemical reactions. Biology just organized the chemistry into a metabolism.
And then we have society. We didn't stop being biological animals just because we invented taxes and the internet.
Not at all. We built institutions, governments, economies, marriages on top of our biological drive to cooperate. So at every single step, the new layer says to the old layer, I need you to keep working perfectly or I die.
It's a dependency chain. The penthouse can't exist if the first floor vanishes.
It is. And this brings us to what I think is the most controversial part of the article.
The part about freedom.
The part about freedom, yeah.
This hit me hard. Because if you ask me what freedom is, my first thought is independence, autonomy.
Yeah, sure.
I don't need anyone. I can do what I want. That's the American dream, isn't it?
That's the modern definition, yes.
Yeah.
But Dr. Israeli looks at this stack of layers, physics, chemistry, biology, society, and says, actually, your freedom is an illusion made possible by slavery.
Okay, explain that. Because I feel
so.
pretty free right now. I chose to wear this shirt. I chose to drink this coffee.
You are free to have this conversation, to think complex thoughts, to plan your weekend. But you only have that freedom because your heart cells, your lung tissue, and your neurons are strictly obeying the laws of biology without question. Oh!
They are slaves to the rhythm.
So if my heart decided it wanted freedom from the circulatory system,
You'd be dead in minutes. Cardiac arrest is just a heart cell acting independently of the rhythm. The source puts it so well, dependence is not something to escape. It is something to maintain.
wow.
Your high-level freedom to think is purchased by the low-level obedience of your cells.
That really flips the script on the whole rebel narrative. We usually think the highest form of existence is total detachment.
Right.
But he's saying that detachment is basically death,
Or worse, he uses the analogy of cancer.
which is the ultimate rebel, biologically speaking.
Think about it. What is a cancer cell? It's a cell that stops listening to the neighborhood. It ignores the chemical signals to stop growing. It hoards resources. It acts completely independently.
It says, I don't need this body. I'm going into business for myself.
Exactly. And we don't call that liberation. We call it a disease.
Because it destroys the foundation. A cancer cell burns down the house it lives in. Yes. It violates the law of nested emergence because it tries to exist without supporting the layer below it. And eventually, the whole system collapses.
This is where the article shifts from biology to, well, everything else. Because we see this cancerous behavior in things that aren't biological. We see it in how we work.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the corporate world. We see this violation of the law all the time.
Right. The move fast and break things era.
Exactly. Imagine a company that becomes obsessed with efficiency or output. Let's call that the top layer. They want to boost the stock price. So what do?
They start cutting the soft stuff.
They cut the soft stuff. They slash benefits. They monitor employees every second. They erode trust. They stop maintaining the culture. They view the social layer as inefficient.
We don't have time for team building. We have quotas. We don't have time for trust. We have metrics.
Right. They are trying to maximize the economic layer by consuming the social layer beneath it. And for a quarter or two, it works. Numbers go up.
Just like a tumor grows fast at first.
Exactly. But you are burning the furniture to heat the house. Suddenly, because there's no trust, the foundation people stop sharing ideas, they cover their tracks, coordination breaks down, the whole organism of the company gets sick.
And management is shocked. Why are we failing? We pushed so hard for progress.
But they were trying to build a skyscraper while dissolving the concrete in the basement.
That is the perfect image.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot build complexity if you are destroying the thing that holds you up. This is what the author calls designing with memory.
I like that phrase, designing with memory. But We have to be clear, he's not talking about nostalgia, is he? This isn't about wishing it was 1950.
Not at all. Nostalgia is emotional. Designing with memory is structural. It means asking, what are the load-bearing walls of this system?
Right.
Before I knock this wall down to make an open-concept living room, I need to know if it's holding up the roof.
And he points out that we're doing a terrible job of this in economics.
The biggest example, yeah. Our current economic models often treat the planet, the ecology, as just an externality.
A limitless resource pit.
All right, we focus entirely on the top layer. Market value, trade, GDP. We're trying to run the economy as if it has escaped biology and physics, as if money is realer than water.
And the law of nested emergence says, you can't. If you degrade the ecological layer, if you poison the water and overheat the air, the economic layer will collapse. It's not a political statement. It's a structural inevitability.
You can't have a stock market on a dead planet.
You can't have leaves if the trunk rots.
And yet, look at how we govern. Look at how we manage. We are constantly trying to hack the system by skipping the basics.
We want the fruit without tending the roots. We want the speed of the modern world without the community of the tribal world, and we wonder why we're lonely.
It's interesting because innovation is usually sold to us as breaking away from the past.
Yes.
But this deep dive suggests that true innovation is actually about folding the past into a new shape.
Reorganizing, not discarding.
So, if we want to stop acting like cancer cells, if we want to actually build things that last, what does the source suggest? Because he ends with this really poetic image of the coral reef.
The reef of time. It's a beautiful metaphor. It's the final image of the article, and it really sticks with you.
Paint the picture for us.
Okay, so think about how a coral reef works. The living coral, the colorful stuff we see, the polyps that are actually alive right now, is just a thin layer on the very top.
Right. It's sitting on calcium.
It's sitting on the skeletal remains of millions of generations of ancestors. The dead past provides the literal elevation that allows the living coral to reach the sunlight and nutrients.
The reef is its history.
It is. If the new coral said, I don't need this old dusty skeleton, I'm going to float free, it would just be swept away by the current. It would die.
It survives only because it anchors itself to its history.
It folds the past into its foundation. The past isn't gone. It's right there, holding you up.
That brings it all the way back to the start for me. The universe advances not by leaving the past behind, but by folding it inward.
Time turns into form. The past becomes the floor you stand on, and then you become the floor for the next generation. That is the deal.
It really forces you to rethink disruption. I mean, we love that word in the tech sector, disrupt the industry.
Oh, yeah.
But if you listen to Dr. Israeli, disruption is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Disruption is only valuable if it leads to a new, stable organization. If you just disrupt the foundation without replacing it with something stronger, that's just entropy.
That's just breaking the glass door again. You're just making a mess.
Exactly.
So taking this out of the abstract and into the listener's lap,
Yeah.
how do we apply this? Because I'm thinking about my own life, my own career. We all have moments where we want to just burn it all down and start over.
I think the challenge is to look at your scars differently. And I don't just mean physical ones. I mean the failed project, the relationship that ended, the years you spent in a job you hated.
The tendency is to want to erase that stuff. That was a waste of time. I want a fresh start.
But the law of nested emergence says you can't erase it and you shouldn't try. That waste of time built a certain resilience in you. It taught you how to navigate office politics, or how to handle rejection, or just how to endure boredom.
It's a ring in the tree.
It's a ring in the tree. If you try to pretend it didn't happen, you're making yourself fragile. You're removing your own load-bearing structure. The goal is to say, okay, this happened. How do I use the structure I built during that hard time to support what I'm doing now?
What once responded to pressure becomes the thing that resists pressure later.
That's the mantra.
It's a comforting thought, actually. It means nothing is really lost. It's just reorganized.
Reorganize for the next layer of complexity.
Okay.
You aren't damaged goods. You are a complex structure built to survive.
Now, I'm going to be looking at the world a little differently today. I'm going to be seeing layers everywhere. I'm going to try to respect the foundations a bit more.
Just watch out for glass doors.
I will. No running indoors. Thanks for guiding us through the physics of reality today.
Always a pleasure.
And to you listening, go check your foundations. Are you building a reef or are you just floating? Think about it. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.